Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm so glad you're here. On this channel, I talk about news, controversies, and drama on the bookish side of the internet, and I certainly hope you'll stick around. So today is just a super quick update. As Milo Winter has closed up shop, I don't think I'll be getting any or enough new information to warrant like a whole long video, but I thought it was worth a quick check-in. A few people had sent me messages asking if I had seen anything new or if I was willing to like kind of update, and so here we are. So if you are new to my channel or if you just haven't seen anything before about Milo Winter, go check out this playlist. You'll get the background. I swear not every single video I post do you need a bunch of background for. We've just had a few lately. So last time we talked, his website and Patreon had been shut down, and Milo, or rather his right hand Elrose, had revealed this in a post on Patreon. The book series was also completely canceled, and there are no plans for its release at any future date. There are a few little add-ons to the post, but I'm just gonna read the whole thing to kind of like refresh everyone's memory. The last time I commented on this was the beginning of March, so might have forgotten some stuff. So February 20th, long-awaited changes. We're canceling the spring release of the Age of Scorpius 2nd edition, and we'll be sending a refund to any pre-order buyer who wants one. Yes, if you want a refund for something you paid for. This includes all platforms/storefronts, both hardcover and paperback. As may be evident to many of you, the company has significantly reduced operability and resources now. That means we can't fulfill all the refunds instantaneously. The process will be slow and we are unable to set a clear deadline. We know this is insufficient. We shouldn't have let it get this far, as many of you warned us about repeatedly. Our sincere apologies. We intend to get buyers their refund in due course, as it's what we owe to all the people who supported and believed in us. Yes, and that you took money from. Then there's a little link for the refund queue. As for this Patreon, we're going to leave it up, mostly because we want people to be able to see this post for a long time. But things are changing in some big ways. 1, no more posting schedule. We're changing this entirely from a transactional model, support at this tier to get these rewards, etc., to essentially a tip jar / support the artist fund. Milo still wants to create in Guardian, but he needs to be free of any external pressure or expectation in order to find out what that means. When we have stuff to post, we will, but there's no promised cadence. Stop promising anything at all. Like, stop doing anything. 2, no more differences between tiers. We're opening up every post to all paid members, and there's now a $1 tier. So if you're paying literally any amount of money per month, you can peruse the gallery of posts at your leisure as a kind of digital memorial to the Age of Scorpius. I'm expecting most people to move on, and there's no hard feelings at all. Milo and I are grateful for all the support you've given us throughout this rocky road. If you decide to continue supporting Milo, then you have our humblest gratitude. Thank you for everything. Sorry for taking so long to get here. Farewell for now. And then on February 23rd, there was a little edit just to clarify some things and to link to Milo's statement on his socials, which I did read in my last video. And then on 3/31, there were more edits, adding a slightly edited reply I wrote from one of the comment strings regarding the many unanswered questions, which a member suggested ought to be in the main post. I'm aware of people's concerns of various kinds, so is Milo, although since the previous backlash was so bad for him, he's just off social media entirely right now, but I'll summarize. We spoke at length about the options available and the many different flaws of all of them. Ultimately, because this decision was made far, far too late, there were no good options, just a few different bad ones. I thought this one was the least bad. Others may disagree, and that's their right. Frankly, as this is a volunteer thing for me now, I'm not going to be responding to every criticism or getting into arguments in the comments. What's in the post above is where things stand right now. I know many people are dissatisfied with that. I empathize with everyone who's disappointed and who feels what slivers of trust remained have been irrevocably broken. The fork in the road for Milo to avoid that damage passed a long time ago. It sucks. I'm sure some of you reading this are thinking, perhaps already typing, of myriad ways that would have been better. Respectfully, you have an incomplete view of the situation, and I unfortunately cannot elaborate on that for the author's privacy. And yes, I am still moderating this space. Obviously, some amount of critical ire is called for given the scale of the letdown here, and you'll notice there are many sharply critical comments still up. But comments that cross the line on insults, dogpiling, or toxicity still aren't welcome. Those who repeatedly post such comments will be blocked, as our guidelines state. Customers can always reach us at team@worldofguardian.com or through the website, regardless of their status on the Patreon. So personally, Elrose's loyalty to Milo and willingness to work for free is something I would absolutely not do after all of this, both because the situation kind of ended up spiraling out of control, and while I understand that Milo's mental health is not in a good place, he's completely dodged taking any accountability himself and just passed everything off to her. I totally understand wanting someone to moderate your comments that you trust and then reply if needed just to save yourself, but like, he himself hadn't posted anything on Patreon since December. I just think there needs to be a little something in there. And I think the sentence here, respectfully, you have an incomplete view of the situation, and I unfortunately cannot elaborate on that for the author's privacy, when discussing why it ended up being the outcome, feels dismissive of concerns from people who are owed money. Of course Milo is allowed to have privacy, but frankly, this feels off to me because, yeah, of course people have an incomplete view and will continue to base their assessments off the information they have. That's how it works. That's how we operate. You haven't told them anything else to change their minds. So unless you want to give them more information, that's what they're going to be believing. I mean, I don't know. So I'm going to go through quite a few of the comments that have been left both before and after that additional edit from Elrose, but they'll all be from after my last video. Hey Elrose, any update on when Milo is going to be sending out the refunds? There are a lot of problems that will come his way if they are not filed in the next month and a half. So that sounds vaguely threatening, but I mean, it's the truth. He's going to be running into problems pretty soon, one way or another. According to the Better Business Bureau, World of Guardian LLC is no longer in business. How will this impact refunds? Ooh. I mean, I hate to ask it, but are people even going to get their refunds? At this point, I'd genuinely be surprised if anyone did. Another person said, regardless of the refund queue, we have a legal 120-day window to dispute these charges through our banks. Because the book was officially canceled on February 20th, 2026, many banks will stop accepting merchandise not received disputes after June 20th, 2026. Stalling for another month, as suggested by Elrose, could push us past this deadline. Call your bank and tell them the merchant canceled my order on February 20th and has failed to issue a refund within the legally required time frame. I'm filing a dispute for merchandise not received. The legal time frame is 5 days for TikTok Shop, which we are well past. I believe this refund money comes from the bank's insurance, not Milo personally, but please correct me if this is wrong. Someone else says, it's been a while since this announcement, and I'm wondering if anyone has had success yet getting a refund through the refund queue. Don't think so. There's also been no replies about the continued monetization of this Patreon's content. So I do want to note here that though Elrose did eventually respond to this comment, it was after 2 full weeks. And to those who have maybe forgotten, Milo decided that even though the Patreon was closed and no longer putting out new content, they did not discontinue taking payments. And I understand that it's the consumer's job to stay on top of what they're paying for, but I still don't like this. So Elrose replies, I will make an announcement once he starts to work through the refund queue. Yep, that does in fact say that as of 2 weeks ago, Milo had not begun working through the refund queue, which is a ridiculous concept to begin with, and yeah, this is where we're at. Unfortunately, I still don't have a clear timeline at the moment. I'm hopeful that he can begin in about a month, but since there's a lot still up in the air with his situation, I don't think it would be prudent to promise that right now. I know that's not a reassuring answer, my apologies. As for people's opinions about the Patreon still being up, I haven't replied to any of those because I'd just be rewording the text of what's in the original post, Elrose. Once he starts, this post went up on February 21st, and you're saying that Milo hasn't even started the process of refunding anyone, and we can't expect that process to start for another month? This seems very, very illegal. We get another commenter. I say this as a lawyer, but not your lawyer. You need to distance yourself from this. If requested refunds have not even started being completed for pre-order content that was canceled fully, then that is going to be a legal problem. The US CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Board, one of those, has been gutted. But if there is a complaint to them about this and they have the jurisdiction to review this, I can tell you that they will, and they will not be happy. And you being the only official voice of this are going to be questioned about what you knew when and how it was described to you to tell the public. Milo either needs to take this over and deal with the consequences, or you are going to deal with a lot of the consequences for them. A lot of concern is now starting to come out for Elrose because she seems to be insistent on going down with the ship. Milo is off doing something somewhere, and, while at first this just seemed like him taking advantage of a friend, it's now putting Elrose in like a potentially dicey legal situation. And, again, she has to take responsibility for her own actions and her own choices, but it really just feels like she's putting herself in a bad spot for someone who may or may not actually be worth doing that for. Once he starts, oh dear. Elrose, I mean this comment as someone who really does feel bad for all you're having to deal with. What are you getting out of this? I understand Milo is your friend, but he seems to have completely thrown you to the wolves here. And you've admitted this is now a volunteer position, so you aren't even getting paid. If I were you, I would just step back from this whole thing and hand it over to Milo and reevaluate that friendship. Yeah. Dear Elrose, in response to other comments asking about potential issues with the way Milo is handling things, you said, I thought this one was the least bad. And I'm sure some of you reading this, perhaps already typing, of myriad ways that would have been better. How exactly is not refunding people automatically for orders that they made which your company has not delivered the least bad option? How is it the least bad option to force TikTok customers to wait in queue for refunds with no time frame? Respectfully, Elrose, you are not the one that should or even could answer these questions. From the comments you made, Milo is the one doing product fulfillment, so he should be the one answering questions about late shipping and refunds. You also didn't know that there was a Barnes & Noble edition, which Milo stealthily took down after someone pointed it out. Someone in another comment pointed out that this book was still available to purchase on barnesandnoble.com, and instead of replying to that person and acknowledging it in any way, someone, either Milo or Elrose, just quietly took it down. So in addition to not having even started processing refunds, more books are potentially being sold. Where do you think that money is going? And I know that is making the assumption that they were making sales, but it's the principle. Maybe this is a stretch, but Milo is also the only one with access to company resources and financial accounts to be able to give the refunds asked for. That is a big hope there, that there are financial accounts to even be accessed, but okay. At best, you are a volunteer working as a middleman for someone who should be answering the customers himself. It was Milo who created the LLC, who constantly emphasized that he was an entrepreneur even before being an author. In the business world, you can't just walk away and ghost your customers when things go south. It's best if Milo responds from now on instead of you. It's been 2 weeks since I ordered one of those hardcover first edition copies. I've emailed 3 times since it's been radio silence on your guys' end about shipping. The website said approximately 2 weeks or less, but again, I haven't heard anything. Can I at least get an update on what's happening with my order? Same here, ordered a hardcover first edition when the closing of the operation was announced. I'm in a somewhat comfortable position financially, so I thought maybe it could help offset the costs and perhaps contribute to those who ordered a second edition and wanted a refund can get one, because apparently that's something that needs to be formally requested now. Anyway, I knew what I was getting into given the author's history, but still, weeks have gone by and nothing. My expectations were already on the floor and I'm still surprised. How hard is it to mail a book? Elrose says, hey folks, sorry about the delay. I just caught up on the inbox, so hopefully I've replied to you both. Presuming you both reached out. I usually check the WOG inbox / this Patreon on the weekends, as I have to fit it in around work and family, since it's a favor to a friend rather than a professional position at this point. This past weekend, family health crisis delayed me. Everyone's fine now. My apologies, Elrose. But why? Elrose should not be the one keeping on top of this stuff at all, let alone when dealing with a family crisis. Given that this page is still taking money, should the responsibility not fall on the person who is profiting off of it? Why do free labor that shields Milo from accountability? The result is ultimately that those who this affects are not having their concerns heard or addressed in a timely manner, and that you have to bear the brunt of the bad feeling left by a situation you're not responsible for. This is Milo's mess. You shouldn't have to come in here to explain your personal situation to make up for it. Please, for everyone's sake, yours especially, Elrose, let Milo actually deal with this himself. And Elrose says, I'm doing this because I saw what the first 2 rounds of the internet's ire did to his mental health. And the rest of his life circumstances are also posing big challenges on that front. That doesn't erase his significant mistakes, but this is a way I can help a friend. If I left, I don't think people would be any happier or feel more heard. Elrose. So, I am not without empathy for Milo, but a couple things can be true at the same time. I agree that whether or not Elrose was answering, people would still be upset, but at least they would be upset at the right person. You know? Elrose, you gotta save yourself sometimes. Doesn't matter how much you want to be helpful. In my opinion, you're being taken advantage of. Milo has a responsibility to the people and should not use you as a shield. Another reply says there's a difference between helping a friend and being taken advantage of, and honestly, this is starting to look a lot like the latter. The ire is legitimate. They're the consequences of Milo's actions and choices. At some point, Milo needs to be responsible to the people he hurt, betrayed, and has a legal responsibility to, instead of asking his friends to act as a human shield. Because that's not friendship. And you're right, if you left, people wouldn't be any happier or feel more heard, because the person who should be doing the hearing is the one who isn't listening. It's not your job or responsibility to make us feel happy or heard. It's Milo's. If we're not heard, then that won't be your fault, and it's not something you should need to take on. We have another user here that said, I can't help but notice there are still a lot of legit concerns posted here since February that haven't been addressed. Do you or Milo plan on answering the concerns, legal or other? If you're not sending out the remaining books to people who pre-ordered and not refunding unless requested, why are you selling them instead of sending to people who already paid? Also, if people pre-ordered who are not on Patreon, how do they know? Did you send out other communications as well? The silence now is frustrating since not all questions have been addressed. This is just my opinion. I'm not attacking anyone, but there appear to be contradictory statements. So this person makes some fantastic points. Wouldn't it be easier to just fulfill the orders that of the people that want the book have already paid instead of having them like queue up for refunds and then continue selling the book to new buyers? This makes no sense to me. And yeah, not everyone who wants a refund is necessarily paying attention to the Patreon. So I certainly hope there are some like emails being sent in addition to just being posted here. All right. So all the people who paid for higher tiers for more content will now lose their money after you made all the content available with $1. I understand what they're trying to do here, what Milo and Elrose are trying to do here. But it is pretty unfair that some people were paying more for exclusive content that is now available to anyone who's willing to spend $1 per month. If anything, then it should be available, at least in my opinion, it should be available for like a flat fee. And if you've already been part of the Patreon in the past, you don't obviously need to pay anything else. But I also don't really know why anyone would want to look at this anymore, except for maybe as like a time capsule. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Just want to point out that this from point 1, we're changing this entirely from a transactional model, support at this tier, get these rewards, etc., to essentially a tip jar / support the artist fund. And this from point 2, no more differences between tiers. We're opening up every post to all paid members. And there's now a $1 tier. If you're paying literally any amount of money per month, you can peruse the gallery of posts at your leisure. Are directly contradictory. If anything is payment gated, it's no longer a tip jar. You're still charging for content, which at this point is just predatory. I truly don't mean to dog on anyone involved in this project, but I, and others, have asked very valid questions and have been ignored, while softballs continue to be replied to. So clearly someone has seen the comments and have chosen to leave them unanswered. That's really disappointing, especially in a situation where people's money is in question. I did also see a TikTok that I thought might be worth showing. It's not like too in depth, but you know.
You order one of the last few copies of Age of Scorpius. Well, I can tell you that I at least received my copy. However, I do think it was a little bit of a ripoff. I made a video a few weeks ago about how I ordered a copy, and during that I made a comment about the shipping price and how that seemed a little absurd. And I do still think that is an absurd price. For one thing, if you're charging almost $30 for the book, which does include a profit, because this is either the same exact price he was always selling them for, or like maybe a little bit less, but like would still obviously include a profit, shipping should have just been free, especially after everything that has happened. Like that would have been a great way to share some goodwill with the people who are supporting. It also took longer than 2 weeks. And if I'm paying that much, I expect it to be on time. Here's some proof. I ordered it on February 25th. I got this shipping confirmation on March 3rd. And I didn't actually get the package until March 16th, which is almost 3 weeks from February 25th. I understand that part of the fault may be with USPS. However, I still paid the full amount for shipping. It should have been there on. And about that shipping cost, you can actually find out on USPS how much shipping should cost for things. All the information that I needed was literally on the box itself. So I do think that that information was accurate. Is it possible that there's other factors that I don't know about that did cause it to be a little more, or maybe this could have just been off? Sure. But according to USPS itself, this should have cost $15.25 for shipping, which is in fact less than I paid. I understand that that's only like $3 off, but like I would like an explanation for that discrepancy. And that's only if they shipped it through retail, which I would assume they would, but there's also other options. This click and ship, for example, would have cost $11. I wouldn't call it a scam because I did receive the book and apparently a free bookmark. So I guess that makes up for it. But again, it does seem like I might have overpaid by a few dollars, and also it took longer than it said it. So if you really want a copy, I mean, I don't think you're like not gonna get it, but it does seem like maybe Milo is putting a few extra dollars in his pocket than he should be. But hopefully that money will go to getting someone a refund for the copy of the book they bought and won't be receiving. I guess let me know if you want to know how the book is.
So like, that's, you know, just an example of like, why are we sending out books to people that have why are we still selling them? Just give the people their book that want the book, give refunds to, like, it doesn't make sense to me. Additionally, the shipping, again, I don't really know enough to say one way or another, but I do know that this could have been sent medium mail and been much cheaper. You would have had to take the bookmark out because they're very, very, very strict on that. But yeah, I don't know. That does seem like quite a bit, and I'm certainly not trying to blame Milo for the prices of shipping, but if nothing else, then just going back to why are we sending out new copies to people? Why are we still selling the book when we could just be sending things to people that already paid and want them? Anyways, like I said, not a whole lot to really say here, but I did want to give that small update that zero progress has been made, people are still not being refunded, and Milo still refuses to show face. And any kind of empathy for Elrose is quickly disappearing because she seems dead set on seeing this thing through to the end and shielding Milo from the consequences of his own actions. So after I was finishing up this script, I went to look one last time and see if there had been any more comments, and someone called Pentaxenstein left this comment. To Milo directly, I'm willing to have a conversation with you about your plans. If and when you're ready, I can buy into Guardian or buy you out of Guardian. Either way, I'd make anyone owed a refund whole. The offer is on the table. I have no idea who this person is or what their game plan is exactly, but I saw it and figured why not share. If I happen to see or hear anything more about this situation specifically or in general, I'll let you know. Please let me know if you do. So, today's indie author is Marissa E. James, a fantasy author who also owns her own cosmetics company. Her debut novel, Crown of Light and Fire, released in February, and here is the synopsis. Zelena Hawthorne carries a heavy burden upon her shoulders, protecting her kingdom, Parath. Bound by a vow, she is determined to shield her family and loved ones from lurking peril. Yet everything she cherishes comes under shadow when her queen announces the onset of Coro Diorim, the celebration of queens, inviting the seven kingdoms into their realm. Among them is Eric Greybane, the enigmatic Prince of Moldova, who has never set foot beyond his kingdom's walls. As the festivities commence, his realm embarks on a journey to Parath, thrusting him into a world of many different cultures than his own. Once there, he finds himself tethered to Zelena, shadowing her through the vibrant landscape as tensions rise, with Coro Diorim underway. But as the celebration of Coro Diorim unfolds, darkness looms closer. Zelena is burdened with uncovering the truth behind a string of chilling murders that leave the citizens of Parath in dread. With Eric at her side, she must navigate the treacherous waters of courtly politics while maintaining a careful distance. Can this reluctant alliance pierce through the veil of their duties and underlying tensions to confront a malevolent force that threatens more than just their fragile kingdom? The clock is ticking, and whispers of danger echo in the shadows. Down in the description will be a link to purchase Marissa's book, along with her social media links. Indie authors are a vital part of the bookish community, so try to support them whenever you can, even if it's just a follow on social media. And if you'd like the chance to be a featured indie author, there is a form down in the description for you to fill out. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you would. Check out my Bindery page if you'd like to support me over there. Thank you once again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!